In 1907, in a quiet hospital in Massachusetts, a doctor wheeled a dying man onto an enormous beam scale. The man had only hours left, but the doctor wasn't there to comfort him or to save him. He was there to wait. Watch in hand, eyes fixed on the needle. He was waiting for the precise instant the soul would leave the body so he could catch it the only way he knew how, by weighing it. The doctor's name was Duncan MacDougall. The number he wrote down that day, 21 grams, would outlive him by more than a century. It would end up in movies, in song lyrics, tattooed on the skin of strangers, repeated as fact by people who have no idea where it came from. The weight of the human soul. But the real experiment behind that number is nothing like the myth it became. It's stranger, it's darker, and the question it actually answers has almost nothing to do with the soul. MacDougall was not a crank. He was a respected physician in Haverhill, Massachusetts, well known in his town, the kind of man who took ideas seriously enough to test them. And he had become obsessed with a single conviction. If the soul was real, if some essence of you truly survived the death of the body, then it had to exist somewhere. It had to be made of something, and anything made of something, he reasoned, must have weight. So he set out to do what no one had ever dared. He was going to catch the soul on its way out, and he was going to put a number on it. To do it, he needed people who were about to die, and he needed them to die slowly and to lie very, very still. So he chose patients in the final stage of tuberculosis. In 1907, tuberculosis was a death sentence that arrived gradually. These patients were wasting away, often too weak to move at all in their final hours, which, to MacDougall, made them perfect instruments. He built a special bed and mounted it on top of an industrial beam scale, sensitive enough to register a fraction of an ounce. He laid a dying patient across it, and he waited. His first patient lingered for hours. MacDougall sat beside the scale the entire time, recording the slow, steady loss as the body gave off sweat and breath. Then, at the exact moment the man died, the beam dropped. Suddenly, about 3/4 of an ounce, roughly 21 grams, gone, all at once, with nothing he could see to account for it. To MacDougall, this was the moment, the soul leaving. He had waited. He had his number. But here is what almost never gets repeated. That clean, perfect result happened exactly once. MacDougall ran the experiment on 6 dying patients in total, and the other 5 refused to cooperate with his theory. 1 lost weight at death, then gained part of it back. 2 had to be thrown out completely because the scale wasn't balanced in time, or the patient slipped away before everything was ready. Another showed a drop, but only after a strange delay, which MacDougall explained by deciding that this particular person's soul was simply sluggish, slow to leave the body. Out of 6 attempts, he had 1 result he could point to. The other 5 were a mess of contradictions. So he did what people do when they have already decided what is true. He kept the one that fit, explained away the ones that didn't, and published anyway. And then there were the dogs. To prove the effect belonged only to humans, only to beings with souls, MacDougall ran the same test on 15 dogs. He measured each one carefully as it died, and not a single dog lost any measurable weight at all. To MacDougall, the conclusion was obvious and chilling in how certain he was. Humans lost weight at the moment of death because humans had souls. Dogs didn't lose weight because dogs had none. There is a detail he passed over quickly, though. Healthy dogs do not conveniently die lying still on a scale. To gather 15 dying dogs in his own neighborhood, MacDougall almost certainly had to poison them. The man trying to prove the existence of the soul had to quietly kill a kennel full of animals in order to do it. In March of 1907, the story broke. The New York Times ran it. Soul has weight, a physician thinks. MacDougall's paper appeared in a medical journal that same year, and the public did what the public always does with a number that touches something deep. They kept it. The messy data, the single usable result, the 5 failures, the dead dogs, all of that quietly fell away. What survived was clean and quotable and comforting. The soul weighs 21 grams. Almost a century later, a film took that exact number as its title, and the phrase fused permanently into the culture, shorthand for love and loss, and whatever it is that leaves us when we go. By then, hardly anyone alive could have told you it came from a beam scale and a row of dying strangers. The scientific world, though, took the whole thing apart almost immediately. The problems were everywhere. A sample of one. No control for the dozens of things that shift in a body at the instant it dies. And then there was the simplest explanation of all, the one that needs no soul whatsoever. When you die, your lungs stop moving air. Your blood is no longer cooled with every breath you take, so your body temperature rises, just slightly, and a warming body sweats. That sudden thin film of moisture evaporating off the skin in the seconds after death is more than enough to account for a drop of about 21 grams. And the dogs? Dogs barely sweat through their skin at all. They dump heat by panting instead. A dead dog isn't breathing, so it never gets that burst of evaporation, which means the one result MacDougall held up as proof of a human soul is exactly what you would expect from plain, ordinary, soulless physics. So the science was wrong. The experiment proved nothing, and MacDougall himself never accepted that. For years afterward, he kept chasing the same conviction down stranger and stranger roads. He tried to photograph the soul as it left the body, convinced that if it carried weight, it might also throw off some faint light he could capture on film. He never managed it. He died in 1920, still certain that something had lifted off that scale in front of him, still unable to prove it, and still unwilling to stop. And yet, here we are, more than 100 years later, still passing the number around, which leaves the real question. If 21 grams was taken apart almost the moment it was born, why won't it die? The answer has nothing to do with the soul. It has everything to do with us. We are the only creatures on this planet who know, with total certainty, that one day we will simply stop. And we have spent our entire existence trying to make that knowledge survivable. We build religions, we write philosophies, we tell ourselves stories about what waits on the other side. And every so often, someone offers us something even more seductive than a story. A measurement, a number, proof, because a soul you can weigh is a soul that is real, and a soul that is real is a part of you that does not have to die. MacDougall didn't hand the world evidence. He handed it permission to hope, dressed up in the language of science. And that is so much harder to let go of than a fact. So that is what was really sitting on the scale, not a soul. Not 21 grams of anything at all, just a dying stranger, and a man beside him so frightened of the dark that he was willing to try to weigh it. The needle dropped, and he wrote down a number, and the number was never the point. The wanting was the point. We are not measuring the soul. We are measuring how badly we need there to be one, and no scale ever built is going to give us that number.